What industry is a lot shadier than it seems? My dad knows a story from someone who works for a nationwide grocery chain. They have to deal with an Italian mafia to import balsamic vinegar. More businesses than you think have to deal with mafiosos and gangsters. I once helped the gang relations person with Habitat for Humanity get reassurance that their volunteers would be protected in an American inner city. They apparently always speak with the gangs beforehand for safety reasons. More people died last year over vanilla in Madagascar than cocaine in South America. They've even coined the term vanilla murder. Farmers hire armed mercenaries to guard their crops from thieves near harvest time. And if one is caught, well, let's just say it's in response to all the farmers that were killed by thieves for the same reason. This article is a fairly light read on the subject without anything too graphic. But there's a great deal of information about it floating around, along with some pretty disturbing accounts. The maritime industry. Most of the big companies do things by the book and treat crews well because they're afraid of lawsuits and unions. But many smaller mom and pop companies break laws and violate safety regulations with reckless abandon because they're not as visible and can stay under the radar, so to speak. It's very common for a small company to ask a captain/crew to do something illegal and dangerous in order to increase profit. And for the captain/crew to comply out of fear of losing their jobs. And that's just the US maritime industry. Sailors from poorer nations who work on ships are often fed little more than rice and cheap ramen for months at a time and paid pennies for their backbreaking work. I love running tugs for a living. But the industry as a whole is rife with shady business. Rating services like Yelp. Refuse to advertise and your good reviews magically get rearranged. Hey. Look, if you want to do that and be transparent, I get it. But most every business owner knows how scummy this is, and most clients just have no idea. I have a business that isn't something that would usually be looked for on Yelp. They called and I just froze. Luckily I do long-term rentals and was sold out. Explained I wouldn't have an opening for months. They seemed to leave me alone. Yet they have my business on the front page of Google search under the wrong category. I read an article a few months ago about a pizza place that Yelp tried to screw over. When rating services like Yelp first started popping up, the owner thought it was a good idea and encouraged customers to leave reviews. He would regularly check reviews. Yelp eventually reached out to make a deal. The owner didn't like the idea and turned them down. Shortly after, he discovered Yelp was taking down any and all high-rated reviews. The owner wasn't having any of it, so he started a new promotion. Any customer who leaves a 1-star review of Yelp gets half off their pizza. It became the first 1-star business on Yelp. The place got so popular that Yelp started taking down the 1-star reviews. Dietary supplements. It's gotten better. But there's still a lot of half-truths and whole lies. Not all that long ago it was seriously like the wild wild west. All industries are shadier than they seem. I used to work for a flute manufacturer and it was shady as hell. Eyeglasses. You have no idea the snow job they put most people through when it comes to buying them. It's far worse than trying to buy a new car from a dealership. Wholesale frames are about 5 to 20. Wholesale lens blanks are another 10. Any kind of dip coating, UV tinting, etc. is negligible cost and effort to apply, literally pennies. To top it off, they don't even do a whole lot in-house, but send it to labs, which are basically sweatshops that can take up to 2 to 3 weeks when labor time is literally under 5 minutes. Instead of training real opticians and technicians, they're just glorified sales staff now. Most of the time they don't even bother with proper measurement for PD, frame width, or arm fitting. Was an optician in the early 90s. I'm horrified at what the business has become. Cruise ships. I was told I was having a minimum of 1 day off every week and work normal hours 8-10h/day with a good pay and good prepaid tips. I ended up working 30 days in a row. Over 400 hours. For 1,600 with tips included. This company I was working for was called Scenic Cruises. Ship was called MS Scenic Crystal, which was an Australian company working over a Swiss company going under a Maltese flag. Sailing in Central Europe. That's how I understood it anyways. They deliberately did this so they could break international laws. I counted at least 5 that they broke. Biggest scam company I ever worked for. I resigned after my first month. The police boarded the ship every once in a while because they knew this, but they couldn't do SPEEP because they had no jurisdiction over the ship. I was forced to work with a 39 Celsius fever. I really wanna beep this company up, but I literally have no idea how. And hiring an international lawyer or whatever is too expensive. Edit. If anyone knows how, please contact me. They are also huge polluters and dump waste into the ocean. Trucking. The margins are razor thin, and so everyone is trying to nickel and dime each other constantly. The drivers lie to their dispatchers. The dispatchers lie to the brokers. The brokers lie to the clients. All of this for like 50 to 100 sometimes. Avocado farms. Most of the farms in Central America are taken over by the cartel because of how much money is in selling avocados. Pet industry. Basement puppy mills and dogs that are so inbred they can hardly breathe. There are plenty of ethical breeders out there, and some unlicensed breeders are ethical even if in a legal gray zone, but the conditions of some of the so-called puppy mills can be really bad. Sometimes when breeds are mixed and the pup gets the recessive genes the breeders weren't looking for, they straight up euthanize it because they know it won't sell. Not to mention how many purebreds are actually not pure at all, and sold as is. Shady. CBD. Lot of predatory companies making subpar products with questionable raw materials and then marking it way the beep up and selling it as a miracle cure to vulnerable and ill-educated consumers. Usually have a high-power legal team on deck, but pay their workers speep and no benefits. Edit. Because so many people are asking. While I used to be in sales in the industry and have my own opinions about who's good out there, it's a woefully short list. You'll probably have your best luck checking out the top recommendations at r/CBD. They have a whole pinned post about best companies that they've hopefully vetted well. Doesn't the beauty industry have a problem with child labor? I remember watching a thing where a journalist goes to India to see the mines where children mine some sort of mineral to make bronzer. Edit. The mineral is mica, and someone pointed out the video where I remembered this from. Link. Mattress industry. Specifically, mattress firm. This will probably get buried. But glitter. A manager of one of the biggest glitter manufacturers, Glitterx, said in a 2018 interview that most of the glitter they make goes to one buyer for a single industrial use. When asked who the buyer was and why they need so much glitter, she said, "Oh, I definitely can't disclose that." When asked why, she said because they don't want anybody to know it's glitter. Ever since this interview, people have been trying to guess what company or industry secretly uses most of the world's glitter and why they want to keep that use under wraps. A link to the interview. Jewelry/gems/diamonds is pretty dark. Eyewear. Luxottica owns a large majority of eyewear and holds a virtual monopoly on the market. They control all prices and will crush competition. The only reason eyeglasses and sunglasses are so expensive is because of price gouging. Scholarly journals. The actual research is usually paid for by the government. when it isn't paid for by the government. It's paid for by a foundation, or in pharmaceuticals by a corporation that is developing a drug. The people who vet the research are all paid by their respective universities. All the journal does is distribute it. Yet they charge way more per page than anyone else who just distributes other people's writing.